feels good to see the ball go through the net. But I think, every game, regardless, you're making shots, you're not, it feels really, really good to have your teammates behind you.
It feels so good when the ball goes through the net. But really, every game, whether you're making shots or not, it just feels amazing to have your teammates behind you. That's what Lexie Hall said. And honestly, the basketball world is reeling after she dropped some major revelations. It's totally flipping what we thought we knew about Caitlyn Clark. No one saw this coming. Lexie leaked some wild details that really give us new insight into who Clark is, her journey, and what's really going on with the Indiana Fever behind the scenes. Fans are shocked, teammates are buzzing, and social media is absolutely blowing up. So, what did Lexie actually spill, and how is it going to change Caitlyn's image forever? We're diving into every explosive detail right now. Before all the doubts, before she really struggled to keep her career going, Lexie Hull was a huge name. She totally dominated at Stanford, right? A fearless competitor who fought her way to a national championship. Her confidence just radiated on the court, her focus was sharp, her drive was unmatched. So, when the Indiana Fever drafted her 6th overall, it wasn't just about potential. They truly believed in her. They saw someone who could think fast, move smart, and really lead a transformation for the team. But listen, the pro stage is a whole different beast. The WNBA's speed, strength, and constant pressure, those aren't just physical challenges, they're mental battles too. Suddenly, Hull found herself on the bench more than ever. Game after game, her minutes disappeared, and with them, so did her confidence. Those cheers she used to get, just echoes now. It messes with your head, she actually confessed later. She went from being a vital part of a winning team to just another name on the roster, and she wasn't alone in feeling that way. Every single player in this league was a star once, the best on their college team. Now they're all fighting just to stand out again, to matter again. But here's the thing, Lexie's struggle was actually part of something way bigger, something that had been brewing with the Indiana Fever long before she even got there. The team wasn't just losing games, they were losing belief. Years of defeat had totally reshaped who they were. Losing had become routine, almost expected, and the locker room just felt heavy, with a quiet kind of resignation. No amount of new talent could cover up that lack of accountability or a real winning culture. Plus, it wasn't just about missing shots, it was about missing purpose. Criticism had replaced encouragement, and the hope of turning things around just got thinner every season. Then, like a huge storm on the horizon, Caitlyn Clark showed up. Her arrival wasn't just a regular signing, it was a total energy shift. She walked in with this gravity that just pulled attention from everywhere. The team was suddenly being followed, arenas were packed, and expectations just rose like floodwaters. But for Clark, this wasn't about fame or ticket sales. It was personal. That same fiery intensity that made her a legend at Iowa, it was now burning right through the Fever's locker room. She wasn't there to adapt to their culture, she was there to rewrite it. Her standard of excellence didn't just challenge the team's losing mentality, it declared war on it. From her very first days, the change was obvious. Practices got sharper, conversations got louder, and the air was just electric with something new: accountability. Lexie even noticed it, not just in Clark's play, but just in her whole vibe. On and off the court, Caitlyn carried herself with this focus that really demanded respect. It's really awesome to get to know her. People would say later, realizing that behind the spotlight, Clark was grounded, thoughtful, and surprisingly mature for someone carrying so much weight. But that composure, it came with an edge, a relentless expectation for everyone around her to match her energy. The real turning point, according to insiders, happened during one of their early practices together. After a bunch of careless turnovers, frustration just boiled over. Clark, known for how sharp she is, stopped the drill cold. And what came next wasn't some nice little pep talk. It was a full-blown verbal storm. She called out several veterans, her tone totally raw and direct. The gym went dead silent. You could cut the tension with a knife. This wasn't the smiling rookie everyone adored in the media. This was the version forged in the fires of pure competition. Her words hit hard, exposing all the cracks in a team that had avoided real confrontation for way too long. The coaching staff suddenly had a huge dilemma. Here was their prized rookie, their ticket to relevance, openly challenging the team's whole hierarchy. Her drive was powerful, yeah, but also kind of dangerous. There were whispers about trying to rein her in, telling her to tone it down to ease the discomfort she'd sparked. But deep down, they all knew this wasn't destruction. It was transformation. So, in a pretty risky move, they decided to let her fire burn. No intervention, no silencing, just a quiet gamble that her intensity might do what years of strategies and signings hadn't, force the fever to finally wake up. And while some players totally recoiled from Clark's confrontational style, Lexie Hull saw something else entirely. In that tense moment, with everything on the line, Lexie knew this was her last chance. This wasn't just another game or another practice. It was her defining moment, and instead of shrinking under Caitlyn Clark's demanding energy, she chose to rise and meet it. While some players felt completely overwhelmed by Clark's fire, Lexie Hull saw it differently. She saw a challenge, an invitation to find that part of herself that used to thrive under pressure. So, she started staying after practice, running extra drills, pushing through exhaustion, and moving past those quiet doubts that had held her back. When Clark stayed late, Lexie stayed right there with her. They matched each other's intensity, two different flames burning toward the same goal. And pretty soon, something incredible started to happen. That spark that had been missing from Hull's game, it began to return. Together, they started building this chemistry that just electrified the court. Clark's insane court vision met Hull's renewed hustle with unbelievable precision. Caitlyn would sling passes through gaps that seemed impossible, angles that just defied logic. And somehow, Lexie would always be there, catching them in stride, finishing strong at the rim. What began as tension slowly evolved into deep trust. Coaches and teammates were absolutely stunned by how fast their dynamic grew. This connection wasn't born out of comfort. It was forged in confrontation, in sweat, in frustration, and in a mutual refusal to give up. Caitlyn changed everything, Hull would later say, and she totally meant it. Clark's presence wasn't just about stats or highlight reels. It was about pure energy, belief, and an almost contagious determination to lift up everyone around her. Lexie's comeback became this huge symbol. If she could bounce back from self-doubt, anyone could. And soon, the rest of the Indiana Fever started feeling it too. Aaliyah Boston began setting tougher screens, knowing Clark would find her on the roll. Kelsey Mitchell, who used to hesitate, started sprinting the court like every possession was crucial, knowing Clark's eyes missed nothing. Even the bench players found new life, fighting harder in practice, feeding off the electricity that now pulsed through every game. The Fever's offense completely transformed. No longer predictable, no longer stagnant. They played with purpose, with hunger, with a kind of synchronization that could only come from shared belief. But here's the kicker: greatness always comes with a price. As the Fever started winning more, the pressure just exploded. The media spotlight, which used to be this distant thing, now blazed like a super hot sun. Lexie Hull, who had kind of faded into the background, suddenly faced intense scrutiny. Every single mistake, every missed shot, every defensive slip was magnified, dissected, and criticized online. Fans and analysts picked apart her every move, almost forgetting there was a person behind that jersey, still learning to handle the weight of the spotlight. The noise was absolutely deafening, but Lexie refused to let it break her again. She started channeling that pressure into fuel, turning it into this quiet strength. In a rare interview, she admitted that keeping up with Clark's pace wasn't easy at all. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, she said. It changes your whole life. Every day became this test of endurance. Think early mornings in the gym before sunrise, late nights studying film instead of resting, and endless mental battles against fatigue and self-doubt. Greatness, she realized, isn't glamorous, it's lonely. It demands sacrifices that most people will never see. But through it all, something inside her just hardened, a resilience that couldn't be shaken. She wasn't chasing perfection for approval anymore. She was chasing it for herself. On top of that, success doesn't just get you admiration, it breeds envy. Across the league, rivals started to resent the Fever's rise. What began as respect for Clark's talent quickly turned into hostility. Opponents took every chance they got to rough her up, delivering hard fouls and cheap shots. designed to test her limits. The message was clear. If you can't stop her game, you try to break her spirit. But the Fever? They weren't having any of it. Lexie Hull, now a huge emotional anchor for the team, stood firmly by her teammates' side. When Clark got fouled hard in a heated matchup against a rival veteran, Lexie didn't even hesitate. She was right in the aggressor's face in seconds, her voice cutting through all the chaos. The benches almost cleared as tempers flared, but Hull's message was crystal clear: an attack on Caitlyn was an attack on all of them. That fiery confrontation became a defining moment. The Fever were no longer a struggling team, just trying to find an identity. They were a united force, battle-tested and fiercely protective of one another. With Clark's relentless drive and Hull's renewed fire, the team had found something even deeper than victory. They had found brotherhood, loyalty, and an unbreakable bond built through shared struggle. The true secret to Caitlyn Clark's leadership wasn't in her words either. It was in her presence. She didn't need big speeches or catchy slogans. Her intensity spoke louder than any pep talk ever could. That sharp glare after a missed rotation, the precision of her passes that demanded readiness, the silent expectation that every player would give their all. These became the unspoken rules of her world. Clark didn't create followers. She forged warriors. And for Lexie, it was more than just a comeback. It was a total rebirth. The grit that once defined her at Stanford had returned stronger than ever, shaped by the brutal realities of pro basketball. She wasn't just surviving in the league anymore. She was thriving in one of the most competitive environments imaginable. And get this was only the beginning of their story, because what came next would test not just their skill, but their bond. How did trust survive when fame tried to tear it apart? Stick around, because the answer might totally surprise you as fame meets family. So, when Caitlyn Clark stepped into the WNBA spotlight, the Indiana Fever basically went from being totally overlooked to the absolute center of every sports conversation. Tickets disappeared in hours. Cameras followed their every move, and social media just couldn't stop talking about them. Every play, every comment, every facial expression, nothing escaped the public eye. For most teams, that kind of pressure could easily crack their foundation. Envy, ego, competition for attention, any of that could have ripped them apart. But Lexie Hull saw something totally different unfold, something nobody expected. From the very first practice, Lexie noticed how the energy just shifted. Caitlyn's arrival didn't just bring talent, it brought a tidal wave of attention that honestly could have swallowed the team whole. Yet, instead of letting the spotlight divide them, the Fever actually used it to bind themselves closer. Players like Hull, who had already battled through the brutal ups and downs of the league, knew that envy was the easy route, but unity was the only way forward. "We could feel how much she changed the environment," Lexie quietly shared once. "But instead of fighting it, we learned to ride it." Behind the scenes, the Fever weren't just teammates. They were building a bond that went way beyond the court. Think dinners after late games, endless bus rides filled with laughter, and quiet conversations in empty gyms that became the glue that held them together. Caitlyn wasn't treated like some superstar. She was treated like one of them. The veterans made sure she never felt alone, while the rookies looked up to her without losing sight of their own roles. That delicate balance between admiration and equality, it gave rise to something really powerful. And as the season picked up, the chemistry between Clark and Hull grew into one of the most quietly fascinating stories in women's basketball. Lexie started reading Clark's instincts like a second language. The way Caitlyn moved, passed, and created plays demanded trust, and Lexie responded with incredible precision. The more they played, the more they just flowed like one heartbeat. But behind that flow was constant effort, endless communication, and a shared desire to prove that they were more than just Caitlyn's team. Then came the storm that tested absolutely everything. It was the day Caitlyn was forced off the court by an injury. Suddenly, their whole rhythm broke. That once electric offense stumbled. Opponents crowded the lanes, basically daring the Fever to function without their star. And for the very first time, doubt really crept in. It was like starting from zero again, Lexie Hull admitted later. The team just felt adrift, totally unsure of how to move without the player who had become their anchor. Games dragged on, confidence wavered, and that spotlight that once felt warm now burned way too bright. But this my friends, was the moment that separated fragile teams from truly resilient ones. Lexie Hall, unwilling to let that momentum die, stepped forward as the voice the locker room desperately needed. She reminded everyone that the Fever's strength wasn't built on one player's fame. It was built on collective willpower. Practices intensified. Communication sharpened. Every single player started pushing harder, fighting to prove that the Fever were more than just the Caitlyn Clark show. Without their star, they actually learned something unexpected. They found new ways to win. The ball moved faster. Roles evolved. Trust deep. And in that struggle, Lexi discovered the real essence of leadership. Not through speeches, but through action. She showed up early, stayed late, and led by example. When teammates felt the weight of losing, she reminded them that setbacks weren't the end. They were When Caitlyn wasn't there, Hall later said, "We had to carry her spirit, her fire. That's what kept us alive." By the time Clark returned, the Fever weren't the same team she had left behind. They were tougher, smarter, and incredibly united. The spotlight still followed Caitlyn, sure, but now it reflected off every player around her. Every pass, every shot, every defensive stand carried a true purpose. What was once the story of one woman's rise had transformed into the story of many rising together. And as the Fever's chemistry deepened, it became crystal clear that their power wasn't just about talent, it was about transformation. They had turned hype into harmony, fame into focus, and pressure into progress. But this journey isn't over yet, because what happens when unity, fame, and expectation collide at their absolute highest peak? Can they still hold together when the world demands even more? And will that hard-won bond survive championship pressure? Stay glued to your screen to see how that all unfolds. Resilience. You know, in professional sports, that word often defines the difference between potential and true greatness. For the Indiana Fever, that resilience has really come to life through two incredible women, Caitlyn Clark and Lexie Hull. Both of them have faced their share of injuries, setbacks, and intense pressure, but they just flat out refuse to be broken by it. Their journeys, though different, intersect in one powerful truth. Adversity can either destroy you or sharpen you, and both of them absolutely chose to get sharper. Lexie Hull's growth in the WNBA hasn't been smooth at all. Early in her career, she battled limited playing time, inconsistent performances, and nagging injuries that really tested her patience and confidence. During one particularly tough stretch, she even suffered facial injuries in a game that forced her to sit out and recover, sidelining her just as she was finally finding her rhythm. But instead of just slipping into frustration, Lexie used that moment to rebuild her mental strength. She focused on understanding the game from the sidelines, observing details she'd missed before, like how the ball moved, how her teammates communicated, and how she could return even stronger. Meanwhile, Caitlyn Clark was going through her own trials. The weight of expectations on her shoulders was just unmatched. She wasn't just a rookie, she was a media magnet, a symbol of hope for the entire franchise, and a target for every single defender in the league. The physical toll came fast. Bruises, fatigue, and injuries that sidelined her for critical games. Yet, what really stood out wasn't Clark's absence from the court, but her powerful presence off it. Lexie Hull later praised Caitlyn for how she handled adversity with such quiet maturity. Even though she couldn't play, Clark kept showing up to practices, offering encouragement, breaking down plays, and just keeping morale high. She remained totally connected, showing that leadership doesn't always come from scoring points. Sometimes it comes from just showing up when it's hardest to do so. Lexie's respect for Caitlyn deepened so much during that period. Watching Clark refuse to isolate herself, despite her pain, reminded Lexie why she fell in love with the game in the first place. It reignited something deep inside her, a determination to prove she could rise to the moment, no matter the obstacles. When Lexie finally returned from her own injury, she did so with this incredible new fire. She started playing more assertively, moving with confidence, and demanding more from herself. Her cuts were sharper, her defense was more aggressive, her voice was louder on the floor, and Clark's style of play just made Lexie's resurgence even more visible. Caitlyn's playmaking ability created openings that few others could even see, and Lexie, with her improved timing and confidence, learned to take full advantage of them. The two of them developed this natural chemistry. Caitlyn threading impossible passes through defenders, Lexi finishing them with precision. It wasn't just about physical execution, it was about trust. Clark trusted Lexi to be ready, and Lexi trusted herself to deliver. What made this partnership so special was how both players drew strength from their lowest moments. Caitlyn, facing relentless media pressure and the strain of constant attention, found grounding in teammates like Lexi, who provided stability and quiet support. Lexi, in turn, found inspiration in Clark's relentless drive and resilience. They mirrored each other, two different paths converging into a single shared mindset. No excuses, no fear, no surrender. As the Fever's season progressed, Lexi's expanded role became impossible to ignore. Her confidence had completely transformed her from a rotational piece into a key contributor. Players and fans started noticing how she seemed freer, more decisive, and totally willing to take risks. But those who watched closely knew that her rise wasn't just about improved stat, it was about mental growth. The old doubts that used to creep in after every missed shot or turnover were just gone. In their place was a player who absolutely believed she belonged. Injuries, adversity, and pressure had shaped both Lexi and Caitlyn in ways no highlight reel could ever capture. Their story wasn't one of overnight success, but of pure endurance, the kind of growth that happens behind the scenes, in rehab sessions and empty gyms, and in those quiet moments of self-reflection. Together, they redefined what resilience actually looks like. Not perfection, but persistence, not dominance, but determination. So is this just the start of something even greater for them? I'd love to hear what you think below. And don't forget to like and subscribe.